I never expected a billionaire to be moved by a black girl's dance with his disabled daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange hue over the park, as I watched the other kids laugh and play. Their giggles echoed like tiny bells. My heart ached, knowing my own feet felt like lead that I was there to perform. My name is Zara, and I've poured my soul into dance. But that afternoon, all I could see were the stares, the raised eyebrows, the whispers that followed me like shadows. I clenched my fists, swallowing down my fear. Then I spotted her. Emily, the little girl with bright blue eyes and a smile that lit up the world. But she wasn't the same. Her wheelchair glimmered in the sunlight, its metallic frame a stark reminder of struggles hers would never reveal. A soft breeze floated by, carrying the scent of cotton candy, mixing with the faint sound of childhood joy. But here I was, caught in the suffocating silence of uncertainty. What if I could spark a moment of happiness? What if my dance could reach her? I drew in a shaky breath, the lump in my throat heavy. As I took my place, a crowd began to gather, their faces a blur of curiosity and judgment. I felt my heart drum against my chest, each beat loud and desperate. With trembling hands, I adjusted my skirt, sweeping the fabric like a brush against blank canvas. I needed to do this. I needed to dance for her. The music began, soft at first, a gentle whisper. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the moment. My body moved, each step filled with hope, pain, and unyielding spirit. I let the rhythm guide me. I imagined the warmth of Emily's laughter, the spark of joy in her eyes as I twirled, spiraled, and leaped, each movement a prayer, a plea for acceptance. But then I saw him, the billionaire, with his tailored suit and piercing gaze. He was standing by the trees, arms crossed, watching. My breath hitched. Was he judging my performance? Or was there something deeper? Something more mysterious that pulled him here, to this moment, where I danced for his child? The sun dipped lower, and the crowd surged closer, their whispers turning into gasps. I could feel their collective heartbeat, a mix of awe and disbelief. And just when I thought I could break through the wall of silence, Emily's eyes glistened with tears. My heart sank. Was it sadness or joy? I couldn't tell. I stumbled, nearly losing my balance. But then I caught a glimpse of her father's expression. Something flickered across his face, raw emotion, perhaps? It was gone just as quickly, like a candle snuffed out. The music crescendoed, and everything blurred: the lights, the faces, the energy. I danced harder, pouring every piece of me into that moment. And then, suddenly, the music stopped, cutting through the air with a sharp silence. In the hush that followed, I opened my eyes wide, desperately seeking the truth. Was I enough? Did my dance mean anything? I turned to Emily. She was staring back, tears cascading down her cheeks. But what did they mean? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence hung heavy, thickened by the weight of unanswered questions. I searched Emily's face for any sign, a hint of understanding, a flicker of joy, but all I saw were tears, glistening and shimmering like a veil hiding the truth. I felt crushed beneath the gaze of the crowd, their expectations pinning me down like a butterfly pinned to a board. It was stifling, painful. Zara, that was beautiful. Someone finally broke through, an older woman in the front, her hands clasped to her heart. The warmth in her voice wrapped around my trembling frame, even as I struggled to hold myself together. But the moment evaporated with the next breath. Why is she crying? Someone asked, the question sinking my spirit deeper into uncertainty. The whispers resumed, morphing back into doubt. Before I could respond, or even comprehend my own emotions, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. I turned to find a small girl, no older than 6, peering up at me with sparkling eyes. She handed me a Floera dandelion, its bright yellow petals creating a stark contrast with the dullness of unspoken judgments swirling in the air. Good job, she said, and her mother stood behind her, beaming with pride. You made me smile. For the briefest moment, I was enveloped in her innocence. My heart swelled with a little warmth, though its core was still tightly wound with fear and confusion. Thank you, I whispered, feeling the fragile warmth of kindness. Just then, I looked back to find Emily's eyes reflecting the sunset, absorbing the fading light. Daring to hope, I stepped closer, instinctively reaching for her hand. Emily, I asked, my voice breaking with tenderness. Was it okay? The world around me faded as she stared, her blue eyes piercing through the cloud of chaos. It was amazing, she finally whispered, but in her tone, I sensed a weight I hadn't anticipated. She was smiling, yet the tears wouldn't cease. It was a bittersweet symphony, one we both felt deep within. Then, the billionaire stepped forward, his expression unreadable. The crowd hushed once more, and I could feel his intensity settling over us like a heavy curtain. Zara, he said, voice steady but laced with raw emotion. That was unlike anything I've ever seen. And there it was, a glimmer of connection, a spark in the silence that thrummed in my heart. But before I could bask in that moment of recognition, an unforeseen warmth erupted through the silence like a storm breaking loose. The moment shattered as he focused on Emily, kneeling beside her wheelchair. You liked it, didn't you, sweetheart? Emily nodded vigorously, her fingers tightening around mine, as if somehow seeking understanding through our hands. I couldn't help but marvel at the way his affection was unearthing pieces of her layer by layer. How could he look at her like that, with such unwavering tenderness? But just then, darkness shuffled through the crowd, and my heart plummeted as I spotted a figure looming behind him, an imposing woman in a sharp red dress, one that screamed authority and disapproval. When her eyes locked onto mine, an icy chill slithered up my spine. The glimmer of hope I had recently grasped began to falter. That's enough, she called, her voice slicing through the atmosphere like a knife. We need to go now. The billionaire turned at her command, frustration flickering across his features before he walked backwards, still holding Emily's gaze. Just one more minute, he urged gently, but the woman stepped closer to him, her imperious tone holding no room for argument. As they turned to leave, Emily yanked my hand, her voice breaking, please don't go. The despair in her cry echoed through Mara. Reeland pierced the shell of my own insecurities. I had started this dance with the hope of connecting, but now I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just been thrust into a world where I had no place. Emily, they'll be here, I assured, but as her father trudged away, pulling her into the fading light, my voice felt small, swallowed by the encroaching shadows of uncertainty. With the vibrant colors of the sunset washing over the park, a new anxiety gripped me. I whispered a silent promesia, resolve deep within. I would not falter, but as I looked toward the retreating figures, a flutter of doubt skittered through my mind. Was that the final goodbye, or just the beginning of something far more complicated? In that moment, tied between fleeting hope and deep-seated fear, I felt something shift yet again in my chest, an unsettling premonition that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges I had scarcely prepared for. I stood there, rooted to the spot as the echoes of Emily's plea trailed into silence. All around, the murmurs of the crowd felt like a distant tide, rising and falling as I struggled to shake off the chill that clung to my skin. My heart raced, a wild rhythm pounding in my ears, thrumming with uncertainty. The warmth of the moment had slipped from my grasp, leaving behind an aching void. I could still feel the delicate weight of the dandelion resting in my palm, a symbol of fleeting beauty that highlighted my struggle. With every breath, I sensed the shadows of doubt curling around me like a dense fog. Was my fleeting connection with Emily and her father truly significant, or merely an illusion? Moments flickered in and out like fireflies, and the brightness remained just out of reach that I turned slightly, scanning the crowd. Some watched curiously, while others whispered behind their hands, speculating and judging. I held my breath, letting the heat of their gazes wash over me, each one a reminder of the walls I had to scale. When was it I had become this susceptible to their thoughts? When had their perceptions of me begun to shape my own identity? I had performed for them, yet I felt as though I was still dancing within a cage of their expectations. A sudden laugh sliced through the solemnity, unexpected sound in the heavy air. I looked to find the little girl who had offered me the dandelion, still grinning, now tugging at her mother's arm. "Mama, can we go see the dancing lady again? I want to see her dance like a butterfly." Her joyful insistence washed over me like a balm, momentarily soothing the jagged edges of anxiety. Her mother nodded, encouraging her, and as they approached, I caught the sparkle in the child's eyes. "Will you show me your butterfly dance again?" she asked, her enthusiasm both innocent and contagious. I felt the corner of my mouth twitch, a smile fighting to break free despite the reservoir of emotions swirling within. "Maybe just a little bit," I replied, the hint of a lilt creeping into my voice. I took a breath, planting the dandelion firmly in the ground before me, an apostle of hope, and began to move. The music had faded, but in my heart, a rhythm persisted. I swayed softly, my arms mimicking the delicate flutters of wings. Instinctively, the little girl joined me, spinning in circles, her laughter ringing out like silver bells. For a fleeting moment, surrounded by the light of her joy, the audience faded away. It was just an ephemeral connection carved out of innocence and hope. Then, out of nowhere, a weight of familiarity pulled me back. I caught sight of the woman in red again, her sharp gaze dissecting the scene. The smile on my face trembled under her scrutiny, but I was surprised to find that, this time, my heart beat steadily against the panic threatening to unfurl within. "Zara," she called, the ringtone of authority lacing her tone. "You need to stop." I hesitated, caught between the ribcage of fear and a burgeoning resolve. The little girl, oblivious to the tension, twirled effortlessly, her joy a stark contrast to the woman's cold demeanor. "But I'm not hurting anyone," I replied, a gentle yet firm edge to my voice. "She just wanted to dance." The woman stepped forward, lips pursed, disbelief etched across her features. "You need to understand your place. Emilia's family is complicated." "Complicated?" I echoed, the word tangling itself with the curious ache in my chest. "You think I don't know complicated?" Her eyes narrowed, assessing and calculating. "This isn't just about you, Zara," she replied, a hint of menace beneath her composed facade. "You think you can just waltz in here and bring light to their darkness?" I felt the world around me begin to shatter at her words, fueled by a sudden wave of anger. Did she believe me incapable of understanding? I wouldn't let her dismiss me as just another face in the crowd, not now, not ever. At that moment, I caught Emilia's father in the distance, his figure robust yet burdened, framed by the dimming hues of twilight. His eyes fell on me, and the warmth that radiated from our previous interaction returned, but only for a heartbeat. The woman in red saw it too, her expression hardening, acting like a damper on the fragile hope blooming in my heart. "Leave her alone," I managed, my voice shaking slightly but resolute. "She's just a little girl." The woman stepped closer, and for an infinitesimal moment, I sensed something shift in her. But before I could grasp it, she retreated, her sharp tone cutting through the air once more. "We're leaving. I won't allow you to taint her life with your presence." My chest tightened as if an unseen hand was squeezing ether words raked deep into my core, igniting my fears. Just as I thought I might collapse under the weight of impending despair, the little girl grabbed my hand and whispered, "Don't let her take away your dance." And with that small gesture, I felt something light within me, sparking against the shadows threatening to swallow me whole. In that moment, I understood that hope was halting but resilient, revealing itself in the smallest acts of kindness, the kind that poured out in defiance of adversity. But then, just as I began to breathe again, I caught a glimpse of a figure stepping out from the edges of the crowd. It was Emilia's father, his face etched with concern as he approached. Words trembled on the edge of my lips, ready to spill out, but I hesitated, caught in the storm of a new wave of trepidation. What if I couldn't convince him to see me, to understand that I could be part of his daughter's world? As he drew nearer, an unsettling realization washed over me before this night was through. I might have to face not just the woman in red, but the fey-like complexity of my own emotions. And as I swallowed hard, searching for strength in the uncertainty, I knew this moment was only a prelude to the tumultuous journey, a heated journey I couldn't traverse alone. As Emily's father approached, the weight of his burden was palpable. Each step seemed to echo against the backdrop of my hopes and fears, creating a rhythmic pulse that intertwined with my dance. Just as the little girl squeezed my hand tighter, I saw something flicker in the depth of the man's concerned gaze, a spark of understanding that ignited the tiniest flicker of hope within me. "Excuse me," his voice rumbled softly, yet authoritative, carrying the undertones of both concern and authority that sent the crowd's murmurs ricocheting back and forth like a restless wave. Immediately, the woman in red stepped in front of him, a barrier of frozen intent between us, her posture artfully dismissive. "Stay out of this, David," she snapped, her authority as palpable as the tension in the air. "This is not the environment for this." He didn't flinch, his eyes locked onto mine for just long enough to create a tether of connection, an unspoken plea for understanding. "Zara, is it?" he said, though the way he said my name was both foreign and intimate, as if he were trying to remember a cherished tune from a distant past. "Yes," I replied, my breath catching at the sudden intimacy of the moment. "I was just dancing," he finished for me, his mouth curving into a hesitant smile, despite the storm swirling in the depths of his eyes. "I saw. You made her happy." His gaze slid to the little girl, twirling joyfully at my side, oblivious to the mounting tension. Then his focus returned to the woman beside him, the mask of authority cracking for just a moment, revealing the uncertainty beneath. "That I don't see the harm in it," he said quietly, though the resolve in his voice clashed sharply with the woman's rigid demeanor. "Emily deserves to experience joy, whether it comes from a dance, a song, or whatever else brings light to her world." The woman huffed, crossing her arms, disdain radiating from her posture. "This isn't about joy, David. It's about propriety, keeping our lives orderly and shielded from outsiders who think they can play savior." Her words lashed through the air, and I could feel every inch of my skin prickling in reaction. A part of me wanted to retaliate, to scream that I was not a savior, nor had I presumed to claim any role. Another part longed only for acceptance and belonging, desperate for the warmth of understanding. "Is that really what you think?" I spoke up, my voice trembling with a mix of strength and vulnerability. "That bringing a slice of joy is an intrusion? That I'm here to disrupt rather than uplift?" I took a breath, gathering the threads of my courage. Emily is so much more than her circumstances. The crowd held its breath, the air thickening with anticipation. Emily's father's expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, I dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, I was being seen. His gaze flickered back and forth between the woman in red and me, as he weighed his loyalties, the smooth surface concealing the rough waters beneath. "Zara," he said finally, his voice low, rumbled like an angry river, yet tempered by deep compassion. "I want to understand. But I also need to protect her. She's been through so much." An electrical jolt shot through me at his admission. It was a gentle reminder of the struggles faced by those who love fiercely in treacherous circumstances. "I understand that," I said, words flowing like a river breaking free from a dam. "We all have our battles. If only you could see that I want to share in hers, not erase it. Emily deserves colors, even the chaotic and vibrant ones that I." In that instant, the little girl, still tightly gripping my hand, let out a spontaneous laugh, a sound so pure it resonated like a bell tolling for a new dawn. The warmth of her laughter dispersed the icy tension wrapping around our trio, settles as the storm within me mingled with the first threads of camaraderie. Then, as if someone had thrown a switch, the earlier tension shifted, momentarily eclipsed by a feeling of unity that rippled through the crowd. Yet, just as I began to breathe in the residual joy, the woman in red stepped closer, her face. "This is not over," she hissed, her eyes narrowing into slits. "You have no idea the darkness you're inviting." The sharpness of her tone sent a ripple of apprehension through my heart. And just like that, the warmth constricted again, shadows flickering at the edges of my newfound clarity. Emily's father looked torn, at once captivated by my spirit while tethered to the reality that dictated how he had to protect his daughter. Then, as if scripted by the fate of stories unwritten, a sudden commotion echoed from the far edge of the gathering. A figure colliding with the others, causing heads to turn. My heart pounded again, anticipation mingling with dread. "Sir!" a breathless voice cried out, and a man staggered into our midst, a stranger, yet not, dragging with him the weight of an obvious revelation. "You need to hear this. Emily's been offered a new treatment." But there's a catch, it's expensive. The crowd fell into an unsettled murmur, whispers weaving through the air like whispers of the wind. My heart raced as I turned, facing the startled mixture of surprise and fear that radiated from Emily's father, the flickering hope battling against the sharp edge of desperation. In that instant, I realized I stood at a precipice, teetering on the brink of exposure. The shadows I'd fought so hard against were lifting, but they were still clouded with uncertainty. What lay ahead would surely challenge the delicate balance I had forged, and in that moment, I understood I was not just dancing for Emily. I was dancing for all of us caught in the shadows, once more caught in the delicate dance of hope and fear, waiting to see how the next steps might unfold. The sudden revelation of the treatment hung in the air like fragile glass, poised to shatter at the slightest provocation. The crowd buzzed with apprehension, anxiety blending with the dance of hope that had ignited within me. Emily's father staggered back, momentarily lost in the rising tide of uncertainties. Expensive? He echoed. The word a weighty pebble dropped into a still pond, creating ripples of despair. The man who had brought the news stood, his brow quivering with urgency, but all I could focus on was the way David's shoulders slumped as if they carried the entire sky. Yes, sir. It's through a private clinic in the city, the kind that offers cutting-edge options. But ITLL cost a fortune. The stranger's breathless urgency only amplified the tension, a cruel juxtaposition against the vibrant laughter of the little girl still beside me, her innocence unfazed. With every pulse of dread that coursed through Emily's father, I felt a corresponding heartache. What sacrifices might he need to make? What corners would he have to cut to gather the funds? I clenched my jaw, a wave of cold determination rippling through. In that moment, I couldn't help but assess my own life, my own struggles. The gallows humor of my own situation seemed so trivial against this father's plight, yet I couldn't bury the flicker of empathy that surged within. Maybe there are ways we can help. I spoke up, my voice cutting through the rising storm of disbelief. Fundraisers, community support, there has to be something. I can organize something. I'm not an outsider here, I will help. The strained silence that followed my words was almost tangible. David's expression remained a stormy mixture of hope and frustration. The woman in red scoffed softly, arms crossed, a silhouette of rigid disbelief. And what would you know about raising funds? This isn't a game, this is life or death for that girl. That I know about community. I shot back, heat blooming in my cheeks. I know about people coming together for those they love. Emotion doesn't recognize wealth or status. It's about standing together. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, but it was smothered quickly by ire. You're a naive little girl, she hissed through clenched teeth. This world is riddled with complexities you can't begin to fathom. Maybe not. My voice trembled. Yet I pressed on, fueled by the warmth still radiating from Emily's innocent laughter. But I refused to sit back and do nothing. Emily, she needs more than just the shadow of a hope. She deserves action, love, something real. Several murmurs of approval sparked among the crowd, but the woman's gaze remained cold, utterly unyielding. David looked torn, his brow furrowed in contemplation as he wrestled with the implications of my words. In that moment, I couldn't tell if I was being foolishly brave or foolishly reckless, but my heart demanded that I fight for this little girl, the kind of fight that reaches to embrace an entire community. Then, as if conjured by the storm building within me, the woman turned sharply, looking around the gathering as if to gauge their reaction. You think fighting will bring you something? You'll find this life will cost you more than you're willing to pay. Her words curled around me like thorned vines, yet there was a surge of resilience within. She wasn't the only one capable of invoking fear. There was strength coursing through me, a flicker that had the potential to spread like wildfire. Emily's life isn't a bargaining chip. It's precious and worth fighting for. But before I could say more, the stranger who had brought the news clutched his throat, stumbling back a step. That's not all. He coughed, his face paling. There's more to the treatment than just money. There's a trial phase, and it requires testing on the family. A sacrifice of sorts to prove if they're truly committed to moving forward. The revelation settled over us, thick like fog on an abysmal night, and all the warmth we had basked in moments ago felt like it was ripped away. The thought of testing, of any potential harm, Emily's innocent face flickered in my mind, pure and untainted. Would such choices pull the father deeper into the abyss of despair? David's entire demeanor shifted, a new weight settling heavily on his chest. You mean she could be put through more pain? He stepped closer, almost instinctively turning to me, searching for sincerity within the encroaching night. Would you still advocate for this? A chill raced through me, the weight of the decision pressing heavier than ever. I met his eyes, the heartache there carving deep valleys of unsaid words. For the first time, I felt the shadows encroaching on the small light of hope I had dared to spark. Instead of a simple answer, another child's laugh came from somewhere, cutting through the tension, a fleeting reminder of resilience. But it sounded strained, forced. I could sense the darkness swirling further, a tangible threat creeping back into our midst. Emily deserves to live. David's voice cracked, breaking the silence, laden with desperation. Well, do anything. And then, just as the last vestiges of light seemed to thaw through the shadows, a figure broke through the crowd's edge, the woman in red's gaze morphing into something entirely unexpected. Don't rush into a decision, she said, her tone softer, almost maternal yet rife with tension. You'll need more than love. There are sacrifices, and some may echo throughout your life. Are you prepared for the truth of that? The finality of her words wrapped around my heart like chains, a menacing reminder that perhaps some shadows were meant to linger, permeating my resolve as we stared into the storm clouds gathering above. On the precipice of the crossroads, emotions frayed and raw, I sensed that our path forward would be riddled with complexities and trials, forever altering our fates. My heart thudded in my chest, uncertainty clawing at the edges of my hope as I clung to that ephemeral spark of determination. Just as I was about to respond, the crowd shifted ominously, and a shout pierced through our midst. Caught up in the storm, I turned, the pulse of impending conflict echoing through the fabric of our lives. I could feel the weight of impending decisions, each breath a solemn promise imbued with the possibility of joy or despair. As the crowd parted and the shout echoed like a thunderclap through the air, I caught sight of a figure emerging from the shadows, tall and unwavering, framed by the remnants of dusk. The man wore a tailored suit that seemed to glisten even under the dim light, and his polished shoes struck sharply against the gravel as he strode forward, his expression inscrutable. There was a quiet confidence about him that both intimidated and intrigued me. Whispers rippled through the gathered crowd, a mixture of awe and apprehension at his presence. I could sense the shift in energy, curiosity rippling through us like an electric current. I had never seen him before, yet somehow, he felt out of place and right at home all at once, much like Emily's laughter had moments before. "Excuse me," the man interrupted, his voice deep and commanding. He locked eyes with David and seemed to assess him completely in a matter of seconds. "What's this about a treatment?" David's posture stiffened, the weight of an unbearable burden tugging at his shoulders. For a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of hope mixing with uncertainty in his eyes. "They've proposed a trial for my daughter. But it costs, I know the cost," the man interjected, his face momentarily hardening. "And I know what the stakes are." He softened his gaze slightly, as if he understood the depths of despair that lay beneath David's weathered exterior. "What if I could help?" Gasps passed through the onlookers, as if the very notion itself was a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Did he mean financially? When emotions tangled with desperate need, what could he possibly add that would bridge the chasm forming before us? "Help," David echoed, incredulity pinching his brow. "You don't understand. This isn't just about money. It's about our lives, our decisions. You can't just throw cash at a problem and call it fixed." The billionaire's expression deepened, a subtle mixture of empathy and irritation. "I'm not talking about cash," he said finally, words deliberate as if they were wrapped in careful thought. "I want to connect you with the right people, the best doctors. I have access connections. I can cut through the bureaucratic red tape." A glimmer of something possibility ignited in my chest, yet the lurking doubts nagged at me as well. What did it mean for this stranger to offer such help? In a world where generosity often came with strings, could his intentions be genuine? "And what do you gain from this?" David's voice trembled with a mixture of suspicion and desperation. "What is worth your time and effort for us? We can offer you nothing." "People often underestimate the importance of compassion," he replied, his words laced with an unexpected warmth. My daughter, his voice caught slightly. She was born with the same condition. I know what it's like to fight for your child. I want to change how families experience this fight. It was then that I caught a glimpse of the flicker of vulnerability in his stern facade, a father's anguish that resonated with David's own. Meanwhile, Emily, with her innocent spirit, was oblivious to the world of complexities swirling around her. I yearned to reach out to her, to shield her from this mountain of complication while grasping onto the thin filaments of hope that the billionaire offered. But doubt began to claw at my resolve. What if he had ulterior motives? Would he expect something from David in return? And what about the testing? The trials? Elevating their lives came with grave risks, didn't it? There are sacrifices to be made, I whispered, almost to myself, catching the attention of those nearby. My heart raced as I faced this juxtaposition of opportunity and fear head-on. Yes, the billionaire confirmed, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if acknowledging the unsaid words of the crowd. But the sacrifices a parent makes for their child can inspire others to act. They can move mountains. The palpable tension crackled through Yuzel's eyes, drawn to this man who appeared unbreakable, yet shared a wound that perhaps only another father could understand. I felt a bond forming in that moment, a thread woven into the fabric of our shattered lives. David, I spoke firmly, yet compassionately as I stepped closer to him. You need to make the choice that feels right. What do you want for Emily? You must decide how far you're willing to go. David drew in a shaky breath, glancing between the two of Yuzel's intersection of potential hope and lingering doubt. I just want her to have a chance, he breathed, voice brittle yet alive with longing. The rich man extended a hand toward David, a gesture fraught with uncertainty, yet filled with possibility. Then let's take that chance together. David hesitated, the anguish pulsing through him, and part of me wished to shout, to scream at him to be careful. Just as he began to raise his hand to shake the man's, a loud crash erupted from behind. We turned abruptly, and then I saw him. A boy, perhaps 10 or 11, stumbling into our midst, clutching a small pink teddy bear to his chest. His eyes were wild, reflection of fear and desperation etched across his young face. Emily, Emily, he shouted, voice trembling with urgency. I need to talk to Emily. It's about the treatment. The world held its breath as the boy's words hung heavy in the air, a sudden reminder that fate was an unpredictable game. Just when we thought we could see a way forward, another weight pressed down upon us, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last, alive with questions, decisions, and the looming specter of impending choice. My heart raced. What had this boy seen? What truth lay behind those trembling words? The tension in the air turned electric, crackling with unspoken fears and fragile hopes as the boy's voice broke through the uncertainty. I need to talk to Emily. It's about the treatment. His tiny body shook, every ounce of his being focused on the goal of reaching Emily. Murmuros corrieron por la multitud. Preguntas y dudas apareciendo en sus rostros mientras todos observaban al niño, atrapados entre la incredulidad y la impaciencia. David's eyes widened in shock, instinctively protective, and I sensed the surge of a father's love beneath his thin layer of terror. Who are you? David commanded, yet his voice lacked the authority he usually wielded. There was only desperation in the crumbling facade he tried to maintain. The boy clutched the teddy bear Titera lifeline to his courage. My sister, she's in a trial for the treatment. She told me to find Emily. She said there might be a way for her to get in, too. His words tumbled out, earnest yet laden with the weight of too much grown-up knowledge for someone so young. The crowd surged forward, drawn to the boy as if he were a beacon of hope in our hopeless sea. The billionaire's expression shifted, curiosity igniting in those dark eyes, a schism of realization that perhaps fate had just delivered a second chance, ensuring that all of us would be swept into this story together. Your sister? The billionaire questioned, stepping closer. What's your name, boy? Liam, he squeaked, meeting the man's gaze with unexpected steadiness despite his fear. My sister's name is Mia. She has. His voice trailed off as he gulped, recollecting something painful. She has the same illness as Emily. She's doing the new trial. It's working. My mom said she's getting better. And before he could say more, David knelt, bringing himself to Liam's level, wholly engaged, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around us. How do you know about Emily? How did you find her? Liam swallowed hard and shifted nervously, but pushed onward. I overheard my mom talking to the doctor. He said that families were sometimes picked for trials if they had connections, or his voice dropped to a whisper, or if they had someone who could help. I had never noticed how powerful a child's hope could be until that moment. The innocence in Liam's voice, paired with his fierce determination, ignited something in us, our motherly instincts twisted together with the desperate need for action. Is this true? The billionaire asked Liam, his tone unwavering but undeniably softer. Can you bring Emily and your sister together? How do we do this? Liam's eyes shimmered, the prospect of possibility illuminating his small features. I can help. I know some of the doctors. They said it's about finding the right person to connect us. They told me stories about miracles. You just need to believe. Those simple words echoed through the crowd, reverberating with forgotten dreams and lifelines now sniffed out in the chaotic unfolding. I felt a flicker of something within me, a glimmer of hope that threatened to grow but also warned of impending loss. What if this was just a fleeting moment of kindness in a world that often turned cruel and cold? David looked to me, uncertainty shadowing his brow. What do you think, Lily? He implored, his voice barely a whisper, dominated by fear, yet weighted by the ever-looming need for a chance. Can we trust him? But before I could reply, I made the mistake of glancing at the billionaire. For an instant, I could see pain bleeding through his carefully constructed mask once more. It was in the way he shifted his weight, the slight clenching of his jaw, internal struggle that mirrored our own. The desire for truth was evident, but what would it yield? Suddenly, the moment extended, stretching toward eternity, each passing breath brimming with potential pitfalls. What if the boy's claims were a cruel game, a deceit leading to disappointment that might break David and Emily beyond repair? The wilderness of doubt lingered, festering beneath the surface, reminding me of everything we had to lose. Emily, I finally spoke, moving closer to where my daughter sat, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing in her world. Do you trust me? Do you trust that we'll do what is right for you? She nodded, her eyes sparkling with innocence, placing her small hand in mine, anchoring me amidst the emotional turbulence. I had never wished for anything more than to shield her from harm, yet the sheer weight of hope anchored me, threatening to capsize my resolve. Then we have to try, I whispered, knowing full well the risks that lay ahead. As negotiations began to swirl around our fates between the boy's conviction and the shadow of the billionaire's past, I sensed something stirring within me, a fire ignited by possibility, yet I couldn't escape the tightening knot in my chest. What if trusting Liam, embracing the light he represented, was a mistake? What if it led us down a road where the past would haunt us with profound darkness instead? Liam's voice cut through my racing thoughts. Please, let's find her. Let's not waste time. And just as I decided to take a leap into the abyss of uncertainty, fate spun anew, and the ground shook violently beneath us. The roar of distant sirens filled the air, a haunting reminder of lives in upheaval. The moment was split apart, fracturing into chaos once more, and suddenly all that felt certain teetered dangerously on the edge. Mom Emily's voice trembled, a plea in her tone that I grasped her hand tighter, resolute amidst the uncertainty swirling around us. Yet fear gnawed at my heart. Stay close, sweetie, I murmured, but the apprehension gripped us both as I attempted to decipher what calamity awaited. Just then, I caught sight of the billionaire, hunched over, a grim look painting his features as he stared into the distance. My chest tightened, seemed to know something we didn't. And with a flicker of dread creeping in, I began to question whether this chance would bring us salvation or further entwine us in grief. In that charged, breathless moment, as uncertainty shifted our paths, the haunting reality hit me clear. Decisions lay at our doorstep, but once taken, there may never be a way back. La multitud se apertuba, sus almas unidas en un mismo hilo de esperanza y temor. El suelo seguía temblando bajo nuestros pies. La sinfonía de serenos adentrandos en nuestros corazones. Un eco recordándonos que la vida estaba sucediendo en otra parte, donde el dolor y la lucha tenían nombres. Emily miraba con ojos grandes y asustados. Sentia su miedo viajar desde su mano hasta mi pecho, why no soup que decker para calmarla. La imagen de su sonrisa se había desvanecido, reemplazada por la incertidumbre. Sin embargo, el pequeño Liam se plantó firme. Ten resuelto como un ferro en la tormenta, la vida de mía depende de esto. Imploro con una convicción que es sustaba y maravillaba a la vez. Esto puede funcionar. No podemos quedarnos aquí la prisión sobre mi esencia implacable. A mi alrededor, las voces de los adultos discusión, algunos con miedo, otros con escepticismo, y otros atados a la cadena de la esperanza. En medio de todo, solo el chorrito de la esperanza de Liam brillaba como una chispa. David, siempre mi roca, ese movió hacia Liam. ¿Qué necesitas de nosotros? ¿Qué podemos hacer? Su voz era firme, pero en su interior podía adivinar que su mundo también se tambaleaba peligrosamente. Fue un guiño inesperado de confianza, una brújula para sujetar la esperanza. Necesitamos reunir a las familias, Liam respondió. Sus ojos luminosos reflejaban una mezcla de pura fe y determinación. Deben contar lo que saben. Debemos hacer que las personas escuchen. Si nos unimos, tal vez nuestras voces son lo suficientemente fuertes para medida que sus palabras llegaron a mis oídos. Algo dentro de mí es activo. La idea de unir fuerzas con otros a quienes la enfermedad había afectado mi lino de una convicción renovada. Tal vez este no era solo un camino hacia la salvación de Emilio mía. Tal vez sería una lucha conjunta por todos aquellos que habían sido olvidados por el sistema. En ese momento, la figura del multimillonario se acercó una vez más. Era un hombre que había caminado por pasillos de poder y éxito, pero ali estaba atrapado en el dolor crudo de la posibilidad. Su rostro, a menudo inscrito en una sonrisa fría y calculada, ahora se desnudaba, mostrando un rayo de humanidad que olvidemos existía en él. Liam, dijo, dirigiéndose al niño con un tono que, aunque firme, vibraba en un registro más suave y vulnerable. Quiero que hagamos un plan. Sabes más de lo que crees. Si juntamos a las familias y buscamos a los doctors, tal vez podemos abrir el diálogo. Tal vez podemos forzar el cambio. Los murmullos crecen, un susurro colectivo titilante de esperanza. Podía sentir el aire electrificarse a nuestro alrededor. Había una chispa de comunidad brotando, incluso bajo el peso aplastante del miedo. Todos comenzaron a discutir. Propuestas, ideas, nombres, familias, estrategias. Pero en el fondo de mi corazón, algo inquietante empezaba a formarse. El dilema de lo fatalista. ¿Hasta dónde estaban dispuestos a llegar todos nosotros? En mi mente, el eco del último año resonaba. Las consultas médicas, los diagnósticos sombríos, las noches de insomnio. ¿Sería esta unión un verdadero ferro o simplemente otro espejismo en el camino de la decepción? A veces, lo que más queríamos no era solo un tratamiento. A veces, era también el coraje de enfrentar lo desconocido. Mientras la conversación fluía, sin un roce en mi hombro. Era la madre de otro niño enfermo. Sus ojos estaban llenos de lágrimas. ¿Qué si esto no funciona? Preguntó, su voz quebrantos. ¿Y si perdemos otra vez? Justo entonces, una claridad me golpeó. Esta lucha, podía ver, había más allá de lo que deseábamos o temíamos. Se trataba de recordar, de vivir y de luchar juntos. Incluso si resultaba en desilusión. Era un proyecto, un intento de encender la luz donde antes solo había oscuridad. Si no lucamos, respondí, sintiendo el poder de mi propia voz alzarse. Ya hemos perdido. Pero si unimos nuestras voces, si lucamos, tal vez podemos crear un eco que resuene en este lugar. Tal vez podemos cambiar las vidas no solo de nuestros hijos, sino de todos aquellos que han sido olvidados de un murmullo de aceptación surgió en la multitud. Y me di cuenta de que el valor de una madre se puede amplificar. Cuerpo a cuerpo, almas en conexión. Comenzamos a gestar un movimiento que podría convertirse en un torrente. Algo más grande que cada uno de nosotros de repente. Un grito corto el aire. Una mujer, desesperada, empujó hacia el frente. Ustedes no entienden. Fui recazada. Nadie quiere ayudar. No tengo más tiempo. El rostro del multimillonario se oscureció. Y de repente, el secreto que había estado escondido en sus ojos salió a la luz. ¿Qué quieres decir con que fuiste recazada? ¿Qué te dijeron? El rostro de la mujer se contorsionó. Su agonía visible para todos. Dijeron que los ensayos estaban completos, que no había más espacio. Que no tenían tiempo. Pero mi hija está muriendo, no pueden dejarla morir. La atmósfera se volvió más tensa y murmurante. Mira David, sintiendo que la esperanza que habíamos cosechado comenzaba a agrietarse. En medio del dilema emocional, relía el futuro en los ojos de los demás, sintiendo que el camino que estábamos tomando nos llevaba a un precipicio, pero a medida que la multitud comenzaba a disiparse, levandos consigo una sensación de urgencia alarmante. No podía dejar de preguntarme si este era el fin de un intento desesperado o el inicio de una lucha que podría desmoronarnos más allá de la caótica medida del alma. El destino nunca fue fácil de aceptar, y mientras la verdad inevitable se acercaba a nosotros. Una realidad más sombría que la lucha misma se cernía en el horizonte. Cuando la última nota de esperanza pareció desvanecerse, supe que cada paso hacia adelante era un juego de decisiones. Y a través de la sombra emergía el verdadero cuestionamiento. Estábamos a punto de encontrar lo que realmente necesitábamos, o simplemente sabiendo las lamas del sufrimiento. El aire se sintió pesado, como si una nube de tristeza estuviera acumulándose sobre nuestras cabezas. La mujer, con el rostro cercado por las lágrimas, se convirtió en el símbolo de nuestra inminente derrota. Al escuchar su historia, un profundo eco de desesperanza me recorrió el cuerpo. Sin embargo, la imagen de Liam, al lado de Emily, recordando que, por muy dura que fuera la lucha, no podía permitir que el miedo nos enterrara. Con un gesto decidido, me volví hacia la multitud nuevamente. Si hay familias que han sido rechazadas, entonces debemos unirnos más que nunca. No podemos dejar que el dolor de esta madre sea en vano. Su grito debe resonar en cada rincón de este lugar. Las voces comenzaron a elevarse de nuevo, cada palabra una línea tallada en el tapiz de nuestra resistencia. Se llamaron entre sí, apurando el deseo de organizar, de hacer algo que fuera más allá del simple lamento. Pero en el fondo, una nube de incertidumbre persistía. Un titubeo enérgico de saber que quizás no éramos lo suficientemente fuertes ante las fuerzas que se oponían. David apretó mi mano con fuerza. Como su toque pudiera inyectarme una dosis de confianza. ¿Qué hacemos ahora? Preguntó. Su voz era un susurro entre las crecientes discusiones. Necesitamos encontrar aliados, respondí. Cada palabra salía con un toque de urgencia. Familias que hayan vivido esto antes. Médicos que estén dispuestos a escuchar. Necesitamos construir un frente que los cubra a todos that el multimillonario finalmente habló. Su voz resonando con un aire de autoridad. Soy consciente de que tengo los recursos, pero lo que se necesita es más que dinero. Necesitamos organización y pasión. Y eso viene de cada uno de ustedes. Quiero ayudar. Su anuncio, aunque sorprendente, trajo un rayo de esperanza y miedo a la vez. ¿Podíamos realmente confiar en él? Sin embargo, antes de que tuviéramos la oportunidad de discutirlo más, una sombra se proyectó entre nosotros. Una figura conocida, pero no reconocida de inmediato, apareció entre la multitud. Era Ana. Una figura del pasado que había estado involucrada en un proyecto similar océanos. Aquel viaje había terminado en un desastre, dejando a muchos en desolación. Ana, la salud con cautela, sabiendo que su historia había sacudido los cimientos de la comunidad. ¿Qué haces aquí? Su mirada era seria, trazando un camino de dolor y determinación. Escuch las voces de la necesidad. Y pensé que había legado el momento de levantarme nuevamente. He tenido información sobre tratamientos, pruebas fuimos ciegos en nuestras luchas pasadas. Pero esta vez no podemos permitir que esto sea solo una conversación sin propósito. El silencio que siguió era patente, cada persona absorbiendo su impacto. Myra David, sintiendo que algo profundo estaba tomando forma. Si Ana tiene información, debemos escucharla. Tal vez si el puente entre lo que sabemos y lo que podría cambiarlo todo. Mientras la multitud la rodeaba, el peso del pasado y del futuro caía con la misma fuerza. Ana pasó a describir un centro de investigación que había estado realizando trabajos no pioneros, pero innovadores. Un lugar que había sido rechazado por la burocracia de un sistema que no quería arriesgarse. Sus palabras eran un canto a la determinación, un faro de esperanza en un océano de dudas. Con cada argumento que presentaba, la multitud comenzaba a recordar la fuerza de la unidad. La visión de un camino alternativo se fue abriendo. Y, por un breve momento, la preocupación se transformó en un símbolo vibrante de lucha. Pero de repente, la conversación se detuvo en seco. Una mujer, que había permanecido en la sombra, avanzó con su hijo en brazos, empapada de una expresión de miedo. ¿No entienden? Gritó. El tiempo se agota. Mi hijo solo tiene días que sucederá si esto no es suficiente. Desesperación. El mismo argumento de la madre rechazada resonó ahora en nuestros corazones, produciendo un eco de temores ocultos. ¿Cuántas vidas estaban ahora en la balanza? El temor a la muerte, un monstruo. Silente que acechaba a cada familia, era el mismo monstruo que amenazaba con devorar nuestras esperanzas. Sin embargo, cuando el multimillonario abrió la boca para responder, un súbito aire de urgencia empezó a desbordar en el fondo de mi mente. La vida de esos niños, esos pequeños sueños que, on podían cobrar vida, estaban urgidos a través de nuestras decisiones. Podíamos estar a punto de vivir un giro inesperado. Solo necesitábamos la valencia para navegar por las tormentas que se avecinaban. Pero antes de que pudiéramos reunir la energía para continuar, un tamborillo resonó a lo lejos, seguido de una serie de luces destilantes. El sonido de sirenas invadía el aire, heraldando la llegada de una ambulancia. Un susurro de ansiedad recorrió la multitud. En un instante, supimos que un nuevo desafío estaba por presentarse, uno que amenazaba con desbordarnos. Y no podía dejar de pensar en lo que estaba en juego. Las decisiones que estábamos por tomar, podía sentirlas palpitando en la piel. El eco del desespero entrelazado con la esperanza se mezclaban en un dramático acto de resistencia. Sin embargo, había una sombra al final del camino que parecía amenazante y oscura, y cada latido de mi propio corazón advertía que el verdadero desafío se podría estar aproximando. The sirens wailed, a haunting confirmation of urgency that galloped toward us like a reaper in the night. My heart raced as I absorbed everything: the women crying out for help, the children looking to their parents with wide eyes, and David's hands trembling as he massaged the tension from his jaw. I felt the weight of the world shift, palpable and stifling. Each inhale wrapped in a layer of uncertainty. Please, stop. A voice broke through the chaos, familiar, yet heartbreaking. I turned to see Emily, her face once full of childlike exuberance, now twisted in confusion and fear. I don't want anyone to die, she whispered, her small fingers clutching my hand tight. The strength of her innocence pierced my heart, igniting a fierce determination within me. Emily, I knelt down, holding her gaze steady. No one is going to die today. We will figure this out together. I promise. My words felt weak against the storm swelling around us, but I needed her to believe. Mom, promise, she said, her voice firm despite her trembling lip. The clarity of a child's trust in her mother grasped at my heart. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I promise, I repeated, more for my sake than hers. Beside us, the murmurs began to turn into a righteous roar. Those families need our support, someone urged, emboldening the crowd anew. We can't lose hope. The billionaire, standing tall yet burdened, caught my eye. His brow furrowed, but in his gaze, I sensed that he too wanted to act, to channel all this tension into something constructive. We need to get Liam's sister and others like her connected, he declared, his voice cutting through the tumult. Let's make our voices heard. I will use every resource I have available. With those words, the air shifted. The nature of our gathering transformed from doubt to resolve. The aching desire to fight for Emily, Mia, and every child held captive by illness surged through us as we ignited a shared purpose. For moments, the sirens faded into the background. The power of our communal yearning drowned out the fear, and so we began. Ideas sparked like wildfire, stories exchanged like battle cries. We began to collect information about the facility on anew, the different treatments we had all heard about, and the paths of struggle each family had faced. The way forward was jagged and uncertain, but we were threading ourselves together, and I felt a glimmer of hope shimmer like stardust around Use It wrapped around Emily and Liam, and even the woman who had cried out earlier, her child nestled against her, leaning on her strength. An invisible cord of resilience was forming, one that could bind our hearts in shared trials. But even as I marveled at our unity, doubt lingered. Would it be enough? Before I could lose myself in that labyrinth of questions, a familiar voice broke the air, punctuating the gathering with urgency. Look, over there, shouted a man holding a clipboard, his face flushed with excitement. It's a news crew. They've come to cover the story. A ripple coursed through the crowd, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. This was our moment. This was the chance to tell the world what we had learned, to give Emily and the countless others like her a fighting chance. Yet, as we gathered closer, the shadows of past failures crept in again. What if the world didn't listen? What if they turned away and ignored our cries? But then I saw him again, the billionaire, stepping forward, his stature visibly representing the tens of thousands of lives tethered to his wealth and connection. With resolve, he turned towards the camera and spoke as I had never heard him before, a raw, vulnerable truth enveloped in professionalism. Today, we stand not only to share our fears, but to ignite a movement towards hope. There are children, families, and futures at stake, and it is time we act. His impassioned speech sent shivers through the crowd, a powerful call to arms. Each word resonated, a collective heartbeat pulsing rhythmically through us all, blending into a unified plea that dared the world to listen. I felt Emily squeeze my hand even tighter, and that squeeze ignited the still embryonic courage inside of me. I stepped forward beside him, my heart pounding with both trepidation and determination. Every child deserves a chance, I echoed, my voice trembling but strong. No child should go without the support they need because of financial or systemic barriers. The news crew shifted their cameras, turning the focus onto USA Spotlight, illuminating our desperate hope. The tension thawed, and we thrummed with a shared mission, every eye fixed on our lives, intertwined like threads of a tapestry, a beautiful, chaotic tapestry woven by our shared stories of pain, resilience, and love. That as the reports rolled out on air, the eyes of our community were glued to us. My heart surged at the thought of all our voices merging, an anthem for change vibrating in the air. Families began reaching out, sharing their stories, their needs, their hopes, and letting the wave of shared pain and strength flow outward. But then, just as quickly, a young woman rushed into view, breathless but resilient. They're already spreading the news. The facilities want to offer assistance, she shouted. They're gathering all the family's emergency grants, potential trials opening. The crowd erupted, cries of joy merging with tears of relief. Looking at Emily, I could see a flicker of disbelief and joy, elation mixing into a whirlpool of hope. In that moment, I felt everything collapse and rise anew. No longer were we just individuals. We became a collective force, igniting ancient battles long quelled by despair. The reality set in the potential for change, for help, for hope. Something shifted within me as well. That weight of uncertainty began to lift, setting alight the part of my heart that had nearly been extinguished. In the cacophony of voices, a sudden silence washed over us as the footage played in the backdrop of our lives unfolding. I felt each heartbeat merging into a singular rhythm, stirring, pulling me home. This was our chance in the days that followed. The momentum continued to build, words spiraling forth into the world, igniting a wildfire of allies. I watched as families united behind us, each with their stories, each one a testament to the resilience and tenderness that multiplied exponentially. And amid it all, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm tones across the fading light, I found myself sitting on a quiet park bench beside Emily. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter in the distance, children at play, and somewhere deep within, the knowledge that we were changing the narrative, a beautiful shift towards possibility. "Mom," she suddenly asked, her voice slightly shy, "do you think there'll be enough kindness for everyone?" I looked down and found her smiling up at me, those bright blue eyes sparkling with innocence. I cupped her small face in my hands, feeling the weight of all wed and to read a journey through darkness to find the light again. "Yes, baby," I finally replied, tears welling as the truth washed over me. There is always enough kindness. We've just got to keep our hearts open to it. In that moment, I knew that we'd created something lasting, not just for Emily or for the countless others like her, but a legacy of resilience for every soul caught in despair. Would allow our pain to mold purpose and our fear to give rise to lives that continued to believe in love. With the warm glow of the sinking sun kissing our cheeks, I realized this would be our final chapter, a moment suspended in time, where hope was alive and crackling brighter than any darkness we'd ever faced. A memory forever etched within our hearts. And as I watched her grin widen, my own heart swell with joy, I felt an undeniable weight lift. We had taken our dance. We had fought with everything we had, and we had won, if only for a moment. But sometimes one moment is all it takes to spark a lifetime of change. In the end, perhaps all it takes is one butterfly defying the storm to weather all our hearts' flights together. And as Emily wrapped her tiny arms around my neck, I knew deeply that we would never stop dancing together through every trial, through every joy, forever moving forward in love.